Glory to Jesus Christ. Permit me to summarize the distinctive traits of Eastern Christian theology. Now, when I say this, I actually mean Byzantine theology rather than the penetrating lyrical theology of the Syriac tradition or the powerful monastic theology in the Coptic tradition. These traditions are beautiful and they're Eastern as well. They overlap. But I'm speaking specifically about that tradition which I'm in and that tradition which came out of Constantinople. And so these are some distinctive traits of Eastern Catholic and Eastern Orthodox theology as it came out of Constantinople. The first trait is its what I would call mystical orientation. This flavor, if you will, of Eastern Christian theology, it emphasizes the experiential and the mystical aspects of faith. It seeks union with God through prayer, contemplation, and ascetical practices. Second thing is what's called apophatic theology. This is also known more simply as negative theology. And this approach emphasizes the ineffability, the transcendence of God. It focuses on what God is not, rather than attempting to confine and define God in human terms. The third, incarnational theology. Eastern Christian theology in the Byzantine tradition places a strong emphasis on the incarnation of Christ and its implications for deification. Deification is also called in the literature theosis. St. Peter speaks about this in his epistle. Deification refers to the process of becoming united with God and sharing in his own divine nature. Now, this isn't Mormon theology. We don't become capital G gods by nature, but we become, as it were, gods by grace. We share in his own divine life. Theosis, deification. Fourth, liturgical emphasis. Worship and liturgy, they play a critical and central role in Eastern Christian theology. The divine liturgy is seen as a participation in the heavenly Jerusalem. And icons, as you can see over here, are used to enhance the worship experience. By the way, some of these icons over my shoulder I just arrived from Ukraine. They are handwritten by religious sisters in Ukraine. If you would like them, reach out to me in the comments section and I'll send you one. You can make a donation to the sisters. It would greatly help them. The fifth point is the communal and corporate understanding. Eastern Christian theology views salvation not just as an individual experience, but as something communal. And in this, it's very distinctively Hebraic as opposed to Protestant. The church, as the body of Christ, plays a crucial role in the life of the believer. Sixth, I like this one. I like them all, but this one especially. Spirituality of the desert. The desert fathers and mothers of the early Christian monastic tradition are highly esteemed in the Christian East. Byzantine, Syriac, Coptic. And then the Assyrian church as well. Their teachings on prayer, humility, their teachings on spiritual warfare, the battle with the thoughts, have had a profound impact on Eastern Christian theology. Number 7, integration of theology and spirituality. There's a close integration of theology, namely the study of God, and spirituality, the lived experience of faith, in our thought, in our our approach to understanding God. Theology is not merely some kind of academic pursuit, but is deeply connected to the spiritual life of the believer and the liturgical life of that believer in the community. And I'd like to come back to this in a moment. But all of these traits reflect the richness and the depth of Eastern Christian theology, which has its roots in the early church fathers. And when we say the early church fathers, basically we're speaking up until the time of John of Damascus. And there are some exceptions beyond John Damascus, getting into Maximus the Confessor and Simeon the New Theologian, but mostly the early church fathers. And it continues to influence Orthodox, Eastern Rite Catholic, and other Eastern Christian traditions to this very day. Now, why am I speaking about these seven traits? Because I want to get back to what I said here in the last section about the integration of theology and spirituality. This is really important because we have a revived interest in Eastern theology, I'd say in the past 10 years, especially in the past 5 years, because of the confusion in Western churches. People see a value in the timelessness, the apophatic theology, in the traditional worship of the Orthodox and Eastern Catholic churches, and they're drawn to that, and I can't blame them. But in that, there's what I would call a confusion of signals. For us, the integration of theology and spirituality is critical. What we're seeing, and there are some people on the internet, I don't want to mention any names right now, I probably do so in some subsequent videos, but what we're seeing with popular bloggers and YouTube personalities is this phenomenon of people who are, well, I'm liturgically Byzantine. But when they do theology, it's not integrated theology. So their theology is polemical. Their theology is, I'd say, hyper-rationalist. And it is not the fruit of liturgical life. And it is, it has the air of an academic pursuit, but it's not connected, at least in terms, in perceptible ways, to the spiritual life of the believer. So, someone may say, "Oh, I'm Byzantine Catholic. I have a chapel in my house, and I go to a Byzantine, church or what have you." But then the way they do theology is to hyperfixate, for example, on papal documents. Not that we have anything against papal documents. I mean, God forbid. But if you're claiming that you're Byzantine in your theology and in your prayer, then let's just have that. You can't claim to be, I'm Chinese, let's say. I never speak Chinese. I don't eat Chinese food. I don't live in China. I don't look Chinese. I don't do anything Chinese. But then where's your claim on being Chinese, And so it is with these personalities online. If they claim to be Byzantine, then show us the closeness of your theology to the life of the church's prayer, which you claim to adhere to. And that is seen in these traits that I spoke about. Your theology then is going to draw from the liturgy of St. Basil, the liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. It's going to draw from, the writings of the church fathers. And please God, maybe, the Syriac fathers, like St. Ephrem the Syrian, or maybe the sayings of the desert fathers out of Egypt. It's going to have an incarnational flavor. It's not going to be antagonistic and reduced to syllogisms and headbutting over with this hyper-rationalism. It's going to be winsome and joyful. It's going to have a poetic flavor to it instead of a syllogistic battering ram. It's going to be apophatic, as I said earlier, and there should be a mystical takeaway. Someone should be able to feel when you speak about this that there is some kind of a mystical aspect, that namely a union with the triune God, and your discourse is the fruit of that union, imperfect though it may be. So these are the qualities of Eastern Christian theology, and if someone claims to be part of that tradition, then the truth of that claim is found in the way they do theology. If their theology is absolutely opposite to all of this, then they're really not representing the tradition they claim to be hitchhiking with.